What's up, guys? Welcome back. This is part 2 of the 1975 DT125 project. If you missed out on the first video, I'll go over a couple things we did on this to get to this point. So I just started stripping all the parts off it that I could that are going to need addressed, cleaned up, spruce up, replaced, etc. But most of all, the best part was I got it to spark, which was the most important thing, I think, along with unfreezing the motor. So I think what was happening with that was there was a little bit of rust on the top of this cylinder, and the rings were just kind of stuck to it. So after getting some oil down in there and letting it soak a while, I got that to free up. Still was not able to get this cylinder off here. This stud here is just, it's galded to it. This oil's been in here for almost a week, and I've tried heating this, hitting it with a rubber mallet, and to the point where this fin here is bending, so I kind of stopped doing that. I don't want to break anything. So the plan of attack with this video, I kind of mentioned it over in the last one, was I'm going to take the gamble and just throw the head back on, because the cylinder doesn't look too bad. I got some of that glazing / rust or whatever it was at the top of here that I think was keeping it from turning. Got that cleaned up. I'm going to go over that again before I seal it up, but this isn't too bad. I don't feel any kind of, I can't get my fingernail to get stuck in any kind of gouges or anything along the way, so it's probably a little glazed over still, and I'm sure those rings can probably use a replacement, but we're gonna throw it back together and take the gamble and see how it runs, because I kind of need to get this bike done. So hopefully, just running it in a little bit, it'll be fine. Kind of like my other bikes. I've had other bikes that showed low compression numbers, and when I've got them running, they ran fine. So I think I need to get a new compression tester, just because mine always reads really low, it seems. Other than that, I got seat cover coming, which is going to replace this mess here. Kind of started peeling some of it off, but they used, I think they used an adhesive on here that I'm going to use a heat gun to try to heat that up and peel that off without ripping the seat foam, because the seat foam's in pretty decent shape still. At least it looks like it so far. We'll find out once we take that off. But the seat pan itself isn't really rusted. All the pegs are there, or the hooks, I should say, along the edge. So those are all still there. I just gotta kind of bend them out and get them ready for the new seat cover that I got coming. And I got the fenders off. I'm gonna sand those down and paint those silver like they should be. Fuel tank I'm gonna leave alone, except for obviously I'm gonna get this old petcock off and block this off so I can fill it up with vinegar. Let that soak and get the rust out of it. And then I'm ready to get the carburetor back together. I got a new fuel petcock. That one that's on there is junk. That's gonna go in. I'm just waiting for this replacement O-ring that's gonna go on this right here. So I get to put that back together soon. I got my intake gaskets here ready to go. New head gasket for the head here, and gaskets are gonna go on these parts. And I got an air filter on the way too. So we're on our way to getting this thing running. Like I said, my goal is to get it running so I could take it out to Mid-Ohio this year. So we're gonna get started on that, guys. All right, I'm gonna get ready to sand these things down, and you can see I took the battery sticker off here, and there's like perfect silver paint under here. So somebody, looks like they just painted right over top of perfectly good silver paint, which was the original color. So I'm gonna sand this down, and along with the front fender, We're gonna make these silver again. Didn't want to bore you with the whole painting process, so I'm just going to show you the stages here. I just got it primed up, ready to go for the top coat of silver. I'm going to put that on next. And here's the finished product on the fenders and also the cylinder head. I threw a little bit of satin black on there, some engine heat paint, just to make it look a little nicer. But fenders came out nice. So those are ready to get put back on the bike. And I'm going to move over next to the fuel tank. I'm going to get that petcock off, block off the opening, and fill that up with some vinegar. All right, I'm going to try to break these screws free here. I'm going to set the camera down and get the impact screwdriver on these and see if I can bust them loose. Get this out of the way a little bit so I can get a screwdriver on that. And it looks nice. It's not really a straight shot, but I'm going to see what I can do. Ended up getting the screws out. The one, as you can see, fought me. I ended up having to chisel that one out. And this one came out normally. So just use them on the block here to seal it up while I put the vinegar in here. I'm going to let this soak, put the screws in, shake it around. The normal routine for old rusty tanks. And this one seems pretty solid underneath. I'm not anticipating any weeping. Maybe right here a little bit. I guess we're gonna find out. So I'm gonna let this soak. I'm gonna put it in the in this bin just in case it does leak out, and we'll revisit this in a couple days. All right, I got that filled up as far as I could go with almost 2 gallons worth of vinegar. So I kind of have it leaning forward to focus all of the vinegar to sit up top here. So that's where the major rust is, right underneath the filler opening here. Everything else looked pretty decent in there, but I'm gonna let this sit overnight and then tomorrow add the screws and shake it around a little bit and dump it out. Just try to get all the loose, scaly rust out of there. And probably do that once or twice after that and flush it out, and we should be good to go, hopefully. All right, here we are next day after letting this thing soak a little while. And pretty big improvement already just with the vinegar in there. So I'm going to put some screws in there, shake it around a little bit to get all the scaly rust off the inside as much as possible, and then dump it out and just flush it out again. And then I think we're going to be set. All right, it's been a day and a half, almost 2 days worth of soaking and shaking this every once in a while, getting all that scaly rust out of there. So I'm gonna dump it out and start flushing out the tank with water. get ready to put back on the bike. It's like chocolate milk coming out of there. All right, so I got it flushed out here. Looks like it came pretty clean. If you remember what that looked like before. I don't know if I got a good shot of it before for you, but it was pretty nasty. Right now we're down to bare metal with a little bit of pitting in there, but nothing major. You can see way down in the bottom sides and in the side of the tank look pretty good. So if I can get that to focus, you can see it. But both sides look pretty good. Flushed it out a bunch of times, and I'm gonna put some gas in there, slosh it around a little bit, just to make sure we don't get any kind of flash rust here. All right, so next up I'm gonna move my attention over to the seat, try to get this thing heated up so I can peel this off the foam so I don't rip the foam apart. So it looks like they use some kind of adhesive here to glue it down. So I kind of got it started off the edges. It is peeling some of it off, but I think that was kind of to be expected. So let me get the heat gun on this and we'll get the top warmed up here, and hopefully this just kind of comes off nice and easy. I'll start with the top here since that's where it's stickiest. Just kind of have to be patient with it and pull it real slow. It is starting to come up a little bit in spots. Well, I'd say that worked out pretty well. I got most of the stuff off of here. I mean, of course, some of it's going to stick, so I'm going to peel off what I can on here. Probably heat this up again and just peel this off, and then try to lay it on top of here, maybe glue it to it, because there's a couple spots that are going to need covered up like this. The metal around the edge of the seat pan. I'm going to have to probably glue this to this spot, and then there's other spots too that I was able to peel spots off, and just have to fill in the gaps a little bit to try to keep this as uniform as possible. But I think it came out pretty good for under the circumstances. So I'm gonna get to trying to piece this back together and glue this in some spots, and then I'm ready for that seat cover once it comes in. Let that get tacky. Looks like it goes right in this spot right here. Looks like it's missing a pretty decent chunk right here that wasn't even in the other seat cover that I pulled off. So I'm just going to kind of glue some leftover pieces in there to try to fill that gap a little bit. It's not going to be perfect, but it will at least give it some shape once the seat cover is on top of it. Looks pretty shabby, but I think once the cover's on, it'll kind of look more uniform, filling in those gaps as much as I could. There was a lot missing to begin with, so just working with what I got. My new seat cover came in the mail today, so I'm going to attempt to put that on this ratty old thing, which we got most of the padding still here. So got the pieces glued on in the previous section that you saw, and I went through and bent all of the metal hooks, the tabs up, so I can attach that seat cover to that. So I'm going to heat up the seat cover with heat gun, just get it nice and soft and easy to move around and stretch. And I'm going to try to work it over top of this. Alright, so I think I'm going to start on the front end. I'll get this on the front and work my way back. Get it kind of laid out and get an idea how I want this lined up. I've done a couple seat covers so far by myself, and getting a little better on each one. Hopefully I can continue that trend on this one. Good start. That'll kind of get things lined up for the rest of the way back as I move my way to the back here. I'll just bring you back in once I get a little further ahead so I'm not boring you to death. Make sure that's lined up on the back end. It's a little loose just because the foam wasn't completely there, but it doesn't look too bad. Just gotta try to pull everything tight towards the back. That'll take a lot of these wrinkles out of there. Now here's the finished product. It's not as good as I had hoped, just because from what I'm working with, there's not a whole lot of there's a lot of padding, but not enough to make it completely tight all the way around. So it's a little distorted and wrinkly in some spots. Hopefully when I ride it around a little bit, maybe that'll loosen up a little bit. This looks a heck of a lot better than what it came with, so I think this is going to work for now. All right, next up I'm going to address some of this janky wiring that's on here. You can see they spliced into the ignition switch and just kind of used the wire nut on here to hold these together. And then this was down here connected to the plug. So they had a wing nuts on here too, or wire nuts, holding that together and then plugging into the wiring harness. So I'm going to get some new wire and solder it in on either end here on the plug end and also on the ignition switch end. So I found some red and brown wire about the same gauge as the stock wiring. So I'm going to cut some off to about this length here. I'm going to solder it on the plug end first. All right, one down, one to go. All right, not too bad. I got the first half of the plug here fixed up, ready to go. I'm just gonna test for continuity on here, make sure my soldering skills are up to snuff and this still works. So I'm gonna set this on that. I'm gonna check the brown wire first. And okay, brown one works. Let me try the red. Okay, we're good there too. All right, switch is ready to go. Tested for continuity. I got good connection on both ends, so I think I'm ready to throw this back on the bike and move on to the next part. Oh, here we are back on the bike, looking a lot better than it did before. Almost looks factory, almost. But yeah, much better, much tighter. I trust this a little bit more than than wire wing nuts on there. So I just got to get a zip tie and tie all this together, and I think we're done with the electrics, and I can move on to the next part. So all my parts came in for the motor that I needed, basically all the gaskets, and so I'm going to put that on next. I got my head all cleaned up, ready to go. I got the copper gasket annealed, ready to go back on the bike, and I'm going to torque down the head bolts to 15 foot-pounds according to the manual. I'm just going to do these in a crisscross fashion here, a little bit at a time. Next up, we'll put the reed valves in with the intake connector for the carburetor. Gonna put a little bit of grease on this surface, just a real light coat. And next up, I'm going to follow that up with the carburetor. I got that back together. I got the new O-ring here, which I was waiting on. And also on the intake side here too. So we get this back together, and we'll get this on the bike next. We can hook the throttle up and then put the air box and work our way back from there. Put a real light coat of grease on here too for the gasket. Well, just my luck. I put the throttle slide into the carburetor here and gave it a couple twists, and I heard some crunching sounds and took it apart and saw that the cable's unwinding itself, just about ready to break. So I'm going to disassemble the throttle tube split here, one going down to the oil pump obviously, and the other one going to the carb. And I actually I found this in my parts bin. I think it was from one of my other Yamahas. I kept this just in case I needed it. I think this might work. It looks like to be about the same length as the throttle cable, so I'm going to see if I can make this work. So I think I was able to get that to work. It looks like it was almost the identical length, and everything hooks up right to the slide, and I think we got the right length here. So I'm going to pop this in and see if that throttle opens up completely, and just make sure we're good to go before I button everything else down. think we're all set. Back over at the bench, my air filter finally came in. So I'm gonna get this oiled up and thrown in the air box, which I could then put back on the bike. Okay, we're ready to throw this back on the bike. Okay, we got the air box on, everything's buttoned up. Still got to get a clamp for the boot. So that's really all that's left for that part of it. I think I'm gonna put the exhaust on next since that's all down out of the way. I got the wires all crimped up, nice and neat out of the way. So we're getting closer. Put the oil tank in here next. Next up, I might as well put the seat on. And finally, the fuel tank's gonna go on next. So before I try to start this for the first time, I've yet to drain the crankcase oil, so I'm gonna do that now. It's like some moisture in there. Probably should have done that when I first got it, but what are you gonna do? It doesn't look horrible. I've seen much worse with water in it. Might be a little bit of water, some moisture contamination, but not too bad. Looks like pretty clean oil though. All right, this calls for 750 cc's. So I'm gonna dump that oil in now. I'm gonna check where I'm at on the dipstick here. Make sure we got the right amount in. Set this straight up. Just kind of lay that on the top. And we got a whole bunch of oil in there. We got 750 cc's, which is what it says on the case here. So I don't know if I can go by that dipstick, but at least we got oil in it for sure. All right, let's give it a couple kicks and see if we can get it to pop over. Let's see what happens. Oh, no way. Already. Wow. Okay. That's promising. Open my house side again. Alright, I'm gonna wait until I can get this thing outside. Looks like we're dripping fuel or something coming out of the exhaust. Let's see what that is. It smells like gas. Carburetor, the float might be letting too much fuel in there. At least she popped over though, right? Yeah, carburetor's leaking a little bit too, I see. Probably this gasket right here. I see it running down the side a little bit. So I think I'm going to take that carburetor back off and just double check the float and the valve there too for the float. So make sure it's all working okay. So I'll bring you back once I have the carb out and see what's going on there. All right, so I got the carb back in. I cleaned up some of the gaskets around the bowl here, and it doesn't look like it's leaking anymore. It was leaking a little bit, just kind of weeping out of the side, nothing major, but took care of that. The float was okay. I tested the float valve. All that stuff works okay, and I just blew it out again just in case. Maybe it's not the crank seals. Maybe she was just flooding out. I don't know. But I'm smoking up my house here. I'm gonna get this thing outside and we're gonna give this another try. All right, we got it outside. I'm gonna try to let it run longer. See if we can blow out whatever junk is in there. Hopefully it's just stuff in the pipe that's leaking out. Because it did run a lot longer that last time than before. So see what happens. clutch is stuck, so I'm gonna have to get a running start with this. Yeah, clutch is sticking. Shifts pretty good through the gears. Aside from the clutch sticking, clutch plates are glued together. Oh, they might have unstuck. Yeah, I think we got the clutch unstuck. Clutch is unstuck. It's just really loud. Got a bit of a fuel leak up in here. Gonna see where that's leaking. Shut her down. Yeah, it's looking like I got a little bit of a weep rust hole maybe right up under here. I'm gonna get the tank off again, let this cool off a bit, get that tank off, see if it's something I can patch up. I got some tank weld, a JB weld, specifically for fuel tanks. We'll see if we can make that work. But otherwise, that was a good running bike there. I'm gonna say it surprised me. So I'd have to call that a win. The biker's running really good, actually. It took a little bit for those clutch plates to get unstuck, but they were kind of glued together from sitting so long. Just kind of running through the gears a little bit down the road there, I think freed them up. So after that, it shifted fine. It revved through the gears perfectly fine. It just that little leak in the fuel tank is really all I got left to deal with. So I think I might be ready to take this to mid-Ohio, so we'll see. So thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned. I'll probably have a video of this running around mid-Ohio, and hopefully I can sell this one. So, all right, we'll see you in the next one, guys. Thanks.